turn America into the handmaid's tale.
So one thing we like to talk about at Protect Democracy is that authoritarianism isn't necessarily an on-off switch. So you're not going to wake up on January 20th at noon and totally see a new country right out of the gate. But what we do know is that across a host of indicators that indicate democratic decline, some of those things I mentioned a couple minutes ago, stoking violence, corrupting elections, aggrandizing executive power, the US is seeing really concerning trends. And if you imagine these as dials, they're really turning to the right and have over the past several years. And so what we could see in a second Trump administration is a real hastening of that decline. And a lot of that is because our democratic institutions and our system is just not as resilient as we thought it was, and a lot has changed. So some of the checks and balances that your viewers might be thinking, like, can't Congress stop him, or the courts, have really been remade in the last several years. As you know well, the Republican conference in Congress looks really different than it did even a decade ago. Almost every Republican who voted to impeach Trump in the House has either been primaried out of office or retired of their own accord because they knew it wasn't tenable to stay in Congress. The U.S. Senate no longer has people like John McCain or Bob Corker or Lamar Alexander, and indeed, Mitt Romney is headed for the exit. These are folks who, despite often having conservative visions of the future, really understood that the role of Congress is to stand up to the executive and exercise its prerogatives. And we're going to see a lot less of that. And similarly, like the Trump administration and Mitch McConnell at the helm of the Senate really remade the federal judiciary in some concerning ways. And so the courts are not going to be a reliable bulwark in a second term. And in fact, the Supreme Court, which has been clearly remade by Trump in his